A little over 3 months ago, a girl I had been casually dating at the time invited me to this queer Boston Sports League party, meetup, hangout thing in Savin Hill in Dorchester. And I didn't really know what to expect, but I saw beach volleyball courts set up and I was excited. I played competitive volleyball for 8 years and I love any opportunity to show off. The sky is overcast, which is great actually for playing volleyball because you don't have the sun in your eyes. Then it started to drizzle, which is, okay, you're working out, it's fine. But then that drizzle turned into a torrential downpour, and that was a different story. We ran to grab our stuff and get it under the cover of the tents that the league had set up for the event, and the rain is coming down so hard that the far end of the beach is like a gray, hazy blur. I can barely make out two women running towards us with their dogs down the boardwalk. And as I watch, what sounds like a bomb goes off overhead, and not seconds later, this blinding flash of light snakes down from the sky and it hits the woman on the left. And the woman next to her is knocked back by the force of the blast, but she was thrown into the air. She was silhouetted for a moment before she crumpled to the ground. And the smell of rain and wet sand was replaced with ozone. It smells like chlorine and like burning plastic. And her dog sprinted down the beach towards us, and I didn't think, I just took off, barefoot, sports bra and shorts. I'm pumping my arms in the way that my high school track coach hated. And I sprint after the dog alongside this guy wearing a rainbow Speedo. And together, we chased the dog all the way down to the end of the beach. And the dog is standing there frozen, and rain is dripping into my eyes as I'm trying to get there closer and closer. But then another deafening clap of thunder, and he careens off past me, and I lunge with my foot to get his leash, like my dog Daisy used to do all the time. And when she would run, I would step on her leash, but I miss. And then guilt washes over me like a tidal wave. And it was adrenaline and guilt and terror that kept me running long after we had lost the dog. Terror, because I was scared of being struck by lightning. It was illogical, that phrase, lightning never strikes twice, kind of just kept going through my head like a mantra, like a prayer, But that fear remained. It felt like I'd been dropped into this post-apocalyptic movie where the main character has to keep running to survive. When we made it back to the beach, there were fire trucks and police cars, but no ambulances. They had already come and taken her to the hospital. And that night, my dreams are full of lightning. And then on Monday morning at work, I get, hey Elsa, how was your weekend? What'd you get up to? And when I answer, I can feel my chest starting to tighten and my heart starting to thud. And one of my coworkers looks it up on the news, and I learned that the dog, Bruce, had been found and brought back to his family. But I also learned that the woman, her heart had stopped. She had died on the beach, and the only reason that she was revived was because a bystander who happened to be a nurse was able to do CPR in time. And she was at Boston Medical Center, where she remained in critical condition. And I sat back down at my computer, and that phrase, "remains in critical condition," just kept on going in my head, and I could feel my hearing was like it was underwater. Noises became muffled, and my throat was tightening. And when I went to grab my jacket to go outside, my hands are shaking uncontrollably. I've had panic attacks before, so logically I know that I'm not dying. But once again, logic isn't really all that helpful for that fear. My dear friend and coworker Hanika comes out to check on me, just like she did the last time that I had a panic attack at work. It was on the anniversary of my grandfather's passing. You see, I watched him suffer a fatal heart attack at the beach in 2015. And on my walk home from work that day, I called that girl that invited me to the beach. I'm thinking I'm gonna check in on her. And I said, I tell her that I had a panic attack at work, and before I can say, "And so how are you doing?" she goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Why? What caused it?" I was like, what caused it? Were we not at the same beach? I remember I felt so embarrassed and small. Am I being overly sensitive? Am I crazy for being so impacted by somebody else's tragedy? I felt weak for feeling shaken by this experience. So when my dad called me a few days later and to check in on me, I I kind of laugh it off. I'm like, I'm fine. I just needed a couple days to process, but I'm all good now. And when I originally pitched this story, it was very different than the one you're hearing now. It was much more about, a group of strangers coming together, rising to the occasion to save an animal in danger. I was really trying to take this post-apocalyptic movie and make this heartwarming search and rescue story out of it, one that doesn't have grief and pain and terror. But I'm not gonna do that anymore, because by distancing myself from my emotions, they just manifested themselves in other ways, like in reoccurring nightmares of my loved ones being struck by lightning. But through telling my story and through, allowing myself to feel those emotions unconditionally, they become easier to hold. And I can honestly tell you that I haven't dreamt of lightning for a while now. Thank you.